What concrete ideas have you presented, and how did Russia respond in this meeting?
These things are best negotiated. I don't want to in private, and that's how these things generally work. There were some ideas exchanged today, some viewpoints that they expressed to us that I'll take back to the president for his consideration, and hopefully it will lead to something. I don't want to overpromise. I mean, again, as I said, this is a conflict that's been going on now for over 3 years. As has already been pointed out by one of the questions here, we've seen an acceleration of attacks. I think it's probably the largest drone attack in a city close to the Polish border, actually, so it's a pretty deep strike. They're going to be having a conference, maybe it starts today, if I'm not mistaken, about reconstruction and the rebuilding of Ukraine. Every time one of these strikes is launched, the price of reconstruction goes up, right? There's also the destruction of the country's capabilities, the country's economic capabilities that has to be added to this. But the president doesn't like wars. He thinks wars are a waste of money and a waste of lives, and he wants them to end. And he's going to do everything he can within his power to end this war and any other war he has a chance to end, as you've seen in the past. And so we're going to continue to work at it. We understand that these things take time and patience, but obviously we're also frustrated that more progress has not been made.
These ideas that were put on the table today, would you characterize them as new ideas from the Russian side that the Trump administration had not heard before?
Yes. Well, I think maybe, yes. I think it's a new and a different approach. Again, I wouldn't characterize it as something that guarantees a peace.
You and the president are unaware that the Pentagon had made a decision to at least temporarily halt the arms shipments to Ukraine. What's your take on that decision by the Pentagon, and what is your general take?
That decision, unfortunately, was mischaracterized. It was a pause pending review on a handful of specific type munitions. That, frankly, is something that is logical that you would do, especially after an extended engagement that we saw both in defense of Israel and in defense of our own bases. So it was a very limited review of certain types of munitions to ensure that we had sufficient stockpiles. It's typical when you do these reviews that there's a short-term pause because, in fact, the review comes back that you have a shortage. You can't pull it back once it's been sent. But generally speaking, aid to Ukraine continues along the schedule that Congress appropriated.
Which types of weapons were paused?
Largely defensive in nature. Some were offensive. But again, the ones that were expended in recent conflicts in the Middle East. And again, not because there is a shortage, but because it's prudent to look at it and say, okay, do we have enough of these in our stockpiles for all of our obligations around the world, both in defense of our bases in the Middle East, but also our obligations to our Indo-Pacific partners? Any other contingencies that might arise. But in the end, I would say that the overwhelming majority of of military aid that the United States provides Ukraine has never been paused and continues along the same schedules that it's been. I think there's a broader issue unrelated to the pause, and that involves the defense productive capabilities of the West, not just us, but of Europe. As an example, one of the things that the Ukrainians need is more Patriot batteries. There are Patriot batteries available in multiple countries in Europe, yet no one wants to part with them. So I hope that'll change. If in fact that Ukraine is the priority that so many countries in Europe say it is, they should be willing to share batteries that right now they don't have a need to use. So hopefully we'll be able to convince some of our NATO partners to provide those Patriot batteries to Ukraine, because there are a number of countries that have them, but no one wants to part with what they have. Perhaps that'll change. That's important.